You are listening to a Sustainable World Radio podcast. Sustainable World Radio brings you in-depth interviews, news, and commentary about positive solutions to environmental challenges. Solutions that adhere to the permaculture ethics of earth care, people care, fair share. Are you interested in learning more about permaculture projects around the globe? How to plant a food forest? Restorative design or ethnobotany? Then stay tuned for Sustainable World Radio. I'm your host and producer, Jill Cloutier. Welcome to Sustainable World Radio, Josh Trought. It's great to have you on the show.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
If you could just start off by telling us about D Acres for someone who doesn't know anything about your project, your farm, maybe tell us where it's located and describe it to our listeners.
Oh gosh, okay. The mission of D Acres, the goal is to provide a land-based opportunity for people to reconnect with nature. There's various ways that we accomplish that, but we are a community center that focuses on getting people the tools and the resources that they need to make a transition to a life that is connected to their ecology and their land base. So we farm on a piece of land, the boundaries, the deed says 200 acres more or less, and we farm on no-till style with a slow transition to an edible forest gardening model. And we're working about, let's say 15 acres right now of field that's in transition to that forest garden. So little plots here, 2, 3, 4 acres throughout the landscape. The pigs are working, we got a little bit of pasture and or vegetable crops and orchards in the process.
Where is D Acres located, just so listeners have an idea of what type of climate you're working with?
We're on the Appalachian mountain chain, the northern end of things up here in New Hampshire. It's pretty rough terrain. It's a farm that was originally settled in the 1800s, sort of the pioneer of the colonial era, and folks didn't really last very long up here. The town grew to about 1,500 people in the around the Civil War era, but due to the weather and the economic circumstances and more or less how they settled the land and chose to live, they burned out their resources. They cut all the firewood, they cut all the forest down, and the population when my aunt and uncle moved here in the 40s was about 90 people. Our response is to try to come into the community and become a center for outreach, a center for education, a center for just face-to-face contact and community. It's sort of a new model. Working through the kinks of it has been half the fun. And I tell you, there's been a lot of challenges and a lot of, we'll call them failures, but actually they're successes because we learned from those lessons.
And Josh, what made you start an educational center and community rather than just a farm?
This is a response to, the crisis of our era. I think, if you're in touch at all with the news, so to speak, there's overpopulation, climate change, chaos, they call it, resource depletion, sort of the corporate oligarchy of the era. All these problems, to a degree, they require a simple solution, and that's really to sort of take back the economy in our own hands. So D Acres provides a place where people can learn how to do that and also implement that strategy. So we're feeding ourselves, we're clothing ourselves, we're doing housing ourselves and building a rural economy based on what we have here to work with, as opposed to during the era when I was in high school and sort of my maturation period, was a whole era of globalization was the buzzword, and I think this is a real step back towards an implementation of a localization.
In the beginning of the book, you write a lot about, which was very interesting, our current paradigm, cultural paradigm, and you talk about how money is the cultural rudder of our society. So would you say at D Acres, what's the cultural rudder? It sounds like it's community, it's self-sufficiency and community. So community sufficiency. What else are the values that really guide your work there?
I think developing a strong connection to the land is essential. Really trying to work with the land and work with the natural systems in place, everything from the water to the flora and the fauna to the minerals that are readily available in the Earth's surface. There's so much that we need to connect and interact with. It is a crucial stage for us, I think, to reinvest in that. That's spiritual path is to just become connected again to where, the earth below our feet.
I agree with you there. And Josh, this is such a giant undertaking. I mean, to give readers, or listeners, and readers, an idea of this, the book has many chapters, and you talk about food systems, gardening and soil strategy, farm ecology, forestry, animal husbandry. How much experience did you have with farming and with building a community-scale permaculture farm when you started out?
The process of coming here has been a gradual evolution for me. I definitely started with very little experience, more or less observer of agriculture. I grew up in North Carolina, and there was a lot of agriculture around me that was in decline. It was tobacco country, so obviously there's a lot less people smoking and using tobacco, but it was also the economy of the era. It was just people were getting pushed out of farming to build houses. And so that was the retirement plan, is to sell your farm and to build a bunch of tract homes. So that experience really was heartbreaking in lots of senses, because, obviously we had done the same thing and plopped our house in the middle of old farmland, but then to watch the farmland all around us disappear was a little, it definitely stuck with me. Moving forward, I always had that sense that we needed to act promptly, or otherwise we're gonna lose so much valuable farmland, so much of a life, and forget a life that we really need to remember.
I think a lot of people are searching right now for a way to live where they're more connected to nature, and I think your book is a good guide for that. You also you didn't have a lot of experience when you started, and I think that gives people hope that they can do this as well.
I think that's really, let me zero in on my lack of experience then. Coming out of college, my experience was based largely in academia. I had a lot of knowledge on the problems of the world. This litany, it was 4 years. My degree was in environmental conservation, and it was really more about the environmental destruction that was going on. So 4 years of hammering in the problems. Depressing in one degree, but it was also very motivating. In my post-college era was a journey around the country, trying to look at different farms, different models, different communities, and trying to learn what ideas were in place. And then fate brought me to New Hampshire when I was 25 years old. So it was tough when we first moved here in regards to like infrastructure and so forth. We slept in cars the first winter, and it was not very comfortable, put it that way.
Yeah, I was reading about how you walked in the red barn that is still there, I guess, that you've worked on now. But just how, I think your Aunt Edith, is that who owned the property? And then you came to help her, and the whole project just blossomed out of that, of being called to help family.
Yeah. No, and her goodwill as well. I mean, she really welcomed me and made the process really quite smooth. As far as the transition, she really nurtured me and as far as the ways of the agricultural systems up here, and getting me settled into the neighborhood and the local government, that sort of thing. So I mean, I was really fortunate in many ways. But I think also it is a case of circumstance and trying to adapt to the circumstance. I mean, there's lots of people that maybe would have resented coming to live at their aunt's farm, an 89-year-old aunt in New Hampshire, coming up and being told, you should go help your aunt, maybe isn't something everybody wants to listen to. So there's a little bit of adaptability there, trying to make the best of every situation, as opposed to, sort of just thinking it was a chore or something, turn it into something that, you can really be proud of.
Yes, and you said yes, and look what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's unexpected. We can have all these plans, and then something comes in the side door, and it's what we needed or wanted.
You really have to be open to that. You have to be aware of those possibilities.
At D Acres, you're an educational center and community-scale permaculture farm. Can you tell us how what role permaculture has played or does continue to play at D Acres?
Permaculture provides a real structure for us as an organization. We discovered permaculture in the mid-1990s. I was through education, and I was studying renewable energy at a school in Carbondale, Colorado called Solar Energy International. And a fellow by the name of Ed Eaton showed me a video of Bill Mollison, him in a sarong or something coming out of a outhouse. And I think for many people it was just like this big aha moment, like, wow, this is a system that we can start to address these issues of this global calamity we're facing. And so it's inspiring, really gets you motivated and gets you thinking critically about the infrastructure, the different parts of a system that you can build to respond to this global calamity versus just, sort of throwing your hands up. Because really in college and the academic world, they're not providing you with complex system analysis to address today's chaos. I think they'd like to give you little bits and pieces, but solar panels alone aren't going to solve the food system issues, and being able to grow salad greens year-round isn't going to solve the food system issues. There's a lot more. The complexity of it is quite high, and so we need to be responding with complex systems thinking to respond.
That is so true. And so at D Acres, it sounds like you're really using permaculture, designing for perennialism and resiliency at the farm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Definitely looking at the permaculture principles, the different ways that you can stack functions or make hay while the sun shines, different ways that you can add diversity to your landscape, add diversity to your local economy, add diversity to your skills base, different ways to strengthen your system based on these permaculture principles. So it is really, in lots of ways, because permaculture was originally conceived in Tasmania and the original work was done in that sort of mid-latitude environment. For us in New England, I think it's taking those principles and then shifting them to our environment. Make hay while the sun shines also means, get your wood in, get your wood dry before the winter. Mm-hmm. There's different ways to adapt the permaculture principles so that it can fit into your work environment, it can fit into your home environment, it can fit in a small farm, it can fit in an institution, it can fit into a hospital, it can fit into a university, it can fit into a government system. I think we just need to apply the principles.
Yes, we do. And instead of it just being something that people do in their backyards.
Oh, yeah. I mean, herb spiral is a great idea, but it is not the thing that is crucial right now.
Herb spirals save the planet? No.
Herb spirals are not going to save. unfortunately. But I think this integrated systems thinking can really send us in the right direction. I think it's such a powerful tool. I think people respond so well. It's empowering in the sense that it is empowering. It puts the tools into the people's hands first. It sort of, the system right now is set up so you get handed things that are cookie cutter, already prepared. You don't really have to do much thinking. You can use your thumb to solve everything. And that's not real. So, I think, we take it back to let people use all 5 digits on the hands, and then we can really do something. Because I personally, I've seen these phones that make you smarter and stuff like that, but I couldn't build one of those things. I couldn't take one apart and fix it. So really, it's not going to be worth it to me in 2 years when it breaks.
And that's one of the things that comes across in your book is really the joys of working. Instead of working for a living, we just work as part of our living in a way. I think you said something like that in the book.
Oh, definitely. No, I think it's part of this connection. You just feel way more grounded when you wake up and have that kind of control. And you have the sense that, the weather will bring what it will, but you can respond, you can adapt, you can be resilient. I think to lots of sense, people's fears and anxiety is because they feel like they have so little control over their lives. It's they're in constant state of emergency trying to respond. Whereas if you're living the 4-season lifestyle, you're reminiscing about how great the last season was, enjoying the one you're in, and looking forward to the next. That's life.
Then you're engaging with life directly.
It just makes it way more rich. Days are more full, and just there's actually you feel like your life has a meaning. I would have a hard time with the commuting. I feel like you're commuting. You might as well just be on an exercise bike or something. I don't know.
But you're not moving. No.
Going anywhere.
That's the problem. You just sit in the car. I know it's challenging. They say that some people that have to commute long distances tend to be more depressed.
I would be. It's not what we were intended to be on this planet to do, is to sit in a car and commute a couple hours a day.
So Josh, you've come from it at both angles. In school, you were studying the problems and immersed in academia. And then now you're living in community on a farm. Is living in community what you thought it would be from that old vantage point of being in school and studying?
Much harder. When we lived in the dorms or whatnot, and you're hanging out with your buddies, and nobody has real responsibilities, and you're in this creative mode of thinking, I think that's a wonderful time. But actually doing it is, it's more rewarding, tremendously more rewarding, but it's also, it's challenging. There's features of it that you don't expect. You don't expect, conflicts and so forth. I can say when you are able to work through conflicts and you're able to get to the other side, that's another spectrum of the reward. It's something that other people aren't going to have the opportunity to get that close, to get that, frankly, quite real with other people. When you're living with folks, working every day, you tend to see all kinds of sides of them, and I think over time it gives you a real healthy respect for humanity.
From the books I read on community and people I've known that have lived in community, the biggest challenge many times is the human aspect, getting along.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, we can be funny. We can be funny, in terms of getting along. But it's also, we can be think of us as elements of this ecology, and just to be blessed with these wide range of emotions where we can have such empathy and love for one another. I mean, it is an intense existence if you take it seriously. It's just a beautiful thing. Like I said, community, yeah, it's tough, and it's tough to get along. But when you see grown people getting along well together, working through difficulties to meet their collective goals, it is special. This is not like watching Friends on TV, you know? That shit is canceled. That's done with. This is waking up in the morning and knowing people have your back. They have our collective goals in mind. I have right now. There's people on site that we're having some difficulties, some challenges together with conflict, but we're also as much as anything right now we're trying to work through communication because there's some new people, and what I'm telling you is it's worth it. It's totally rewarding to stumble at times, trying to figure out, word choice and trying to figure out the right thing to say at the right time, and when is to say too much, when is to say too little, or you're micromanaging, or you sort of, or you're stepping back from your responsibilities where you should be stepping up. Working through that and getting to the other side and being like, heck yeah, we've done it. We're getting a lot done here. We're doing it right. Things are growing. Things are living. Life is all around us. Like, gosh, I'm a lucky fella.
That's fabulous. And really, it's the more we practice human connection and communication, the better we get at it. And I think that at least my friends that have lived in community, they say that is really, you can just have your patterns rubbing up against other people's patterns, and then things erupt, and then you work it through, and then it hopefully gets better. And is D Acres, do you run by consensus, or have you chosen other ways of running?
What we're doing right now, and it's sort of based a lot on our legal systems, and we have a nonprofit. So the board of directors, they're legally obligated to have fiduciary responsibility for the organization, which means they really need to know it's budgetarily sound, and we're not doing anything up here that would jeopardize the organization. So you don't want any bad practices with your HR. You don't want to go in debt. You don't want to break the law as some sort of zoning thing or whatever, because your board's gonna be held responsible. So they want somebody to be responsible to them. So it's currently set up with a director. I serve as the director, so on the day-to-day operations, I'm going to have responsibility to the board on the personnel and the budget, which is pretty much everything. That being said, what we do and what we practice is open format meetings where agendas is rolled over week to week, and so we have the same topic, so to speak. We have like an advertising topic, and we talk about the advertising we're doing on site. So we'll roll it around what needs to be done. Somebody will take on the responsibility, or we'll maybe leave it for next week, or we'll decide not to do anything. And then we keep going the following week and figure out how to move on from there, building on that. In terms of the consensus is not, it is in a format that is ideal. Consensus is a situation where everyone has the same equity, the same level of ownership and commitment to an organization or a project. But I think, in reality, that's a very rare case and circumstance.
My friends lived at a intentional community in Northern California, and they were run by consensus, and they would spend every Sunday. It could be the whole day in meetings. It was
It's a
tough.
very slow process. I think and patience is a very good thing often in decision making. But there's also times where you do need to make quicker decisions. I think the consensus process, I think once again, it's ideal. It's a situation where, you have your tribe and you're traveling around and everyone is sort of equally invested. But in a situation with our current paradigm, where you have private property ownership, where you also have different levels of experience and knowledge, commitment, then in those situations, it is more difficult to run a true consensus process. Unless you can figure out a way to share, the commitment, the equity, then it's not a level playing field. And to a degree, I think within even consensus, I think it is important for people to realize the different levels of experience and commitment. Particularly with a project like this, how do you form a consensus format when, there's some people that have been here for nearly 20 years and there's some people who have been here for a couple of days. It's ongoing and evolving. I think what we're looking for is a system that will be enduring and fair, and it's still getting there. Some of it, I think, is the legal structures that we're assuming, and other things, I think we just need to transcend some of the thinking and get outside the box and look at different ways to self-organize and make commitments to one another.
So really, it's an experiment. It's evolving as time goes on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and it started as my aunt and uncle moving up here, buying a piece of property, to sort of get back to the land, and that was the modus, sort of escape from the urban area, get back to the land, build your own self-sufficiency. And then this model, I think, is coming up with, we want to get back to the land, we want to get in touch with the land, but we also want to endure. We want this to be more than just a single generation. That's great. That's a sweet song and dance, but how do you create a system that can be multi-generational, that can thrive into the future? Because those are the types of farms that we need into the future. We need these perennialized farms that have, 100, 200-year-old orchards. They have 500-year-old chestnut trees. How do we get there if we're just worried about, the annual bottom line? Or we're just thinking, well, this is until retirement. Like, the farm needs to go well past retirement. We need to be thinking, the farms for 40 centuries, and you gotta start somewhere, of course, but you gotta have a plan for that intergenerational succession. With the average family farm, it really depends on the next generation being interested in the farming and it being economically viable to keep going. But it's dependent on the success of marriage, and it's dependent on the next generation being willing to take on. Otherwise, you're just going to see farms continue to get consolidated into corporate farms or get disintegrated into this suburbia.
So if people are listening and they are interested in coming to visit D Acres, do you have internships? How can people get involved?
There is a bunch of different ways to get involved. If you live close, we have all kinds of events all the time. Pretty much every week there's some sort of community food event, potluck, open mic. Breakfast is this weekend from like 10 to 1 on Sunday. We'll have, a couple hundred people come through for breakfast, and we'll highlight our local food, what we grow, put it on the plates, and that's really the proof we like to show people in terms of the quality of local food, quality of freshness. We have these local events, like the potluck, same sort of thing. Potluck open mic. People come bring a dish and play some music, read their poetry. Just sort of a social event to have. So a lot of local people will just be here on and off. We might not see them for a couple months, and then they'll show back up. We also have sort of the live-in program right now. For many years, we did operate intern apprentice program, primarily geared towards folks with some time on their hands, say college age. Sort of worked out of a Wolfen type model, and we took taking people, 20 to 30 people per year, fair number of internationals. That program, we phasing out the terminology intern and apprenticeship, and this is gone over a little bit in the book, but I think the terminology is maybe not applicable at this day and age. Just I think people come with their preconceived notions as far as intern and apprentice. I think, to me, it's part of our notion of entitlement. I think lots of people are coming, as an intern and apprentice and think, well, I'm not really here to work, I'm here to learn. And really what we need up here at the farm is participants. Everybody's going to learn something, I'll guarantee it. But it's not like a school, it's not like a lecture thing. It's about getting your hands in the dirty and yeah, if you need to know something, we'll try to sort it out in the field and try to figure out, what weed that is or whatnot. But shoot, if I don't happen to know what weed that is, we have a big library and shoot, the World Wide Web, we can find out that information. But it'll take a little bit of your self-direction and a little bit of your personal commitment to gain that knowledge. Because I've found, like, for me anyway, get out in the field with some folks and they just want to ask you questions, and then they'll ask you the same question the next day. It's not like they're really bought into it, you know what I mean? It's like they're just studying for a test as opposed to studying for life. So we're trying to study up for life.
And learn by doing, it sounds
Absolutely. Like. That's what sticks. That's what sticks. I can't tell you how many multiple choice questions I took in college and all that studying and whatnot, and none of that stuff sticks. But I know, I have a good sense of when to plant seeds now and how to do that and how to nurture plants. And actually didn't learn, some stuff in books, but lots of that just by doing.
It seems like when people go there, they're not only socializing, there's a lot of creativity, but they also have the opportunity to learn earth skills and permaculture. And so you tie it all in together.
Yeah, we're doing classes ongoing, just a wide range, based, on what specialists there are in the community. Like right now we're doing an embroidery class. Cool. And, it's just this local woman that's got super talent and is willing to share. So, we'll do some embroidery. Later on in the season, we'll do like a weekend of herbology. There's a lady, Nancy Phillips, that lives fairly close to us, who's just world-renowned as an herbalist, and trying to get her to this location so people can take a class. It's just a part of the diversity of what we have to offer to help build strength in the local community, but also build strength on the farm. And when people come out for these workshops and experience these processes and learn about composting and so forth, I still have people come up to me all the time. Well, I remember when I learned this in like 1998 or something, and you're like, what? I can't even hardly remember us teaching stuff like that. And you know what I mean? And it's a real gift. It's the type of thing where you put it out there, and it ripples. And those ripples just keep reverberating. That's how those waves work.
One part of the book that I really enjoyed was the part about the animals on the farm. And We've talked about how community and how working with humans can be very challenging but rewarding. And same thing with the animals. I loved how you wrote that you are attempting and in creating a mutualistic relationship with the animals. And did you have much experience working with animals before you started working with the pigs and the oxen and ducks on your farm?
Not so much. Like I said, I grew up in suburbia, so like I remember having like a rabbit and stuff.
The way you write about it, Josh, was really fun. And it was just interesting when you were talking about the oxen and really getting to know the intrinsic nature of the animals and then matching them with the work on the farm. Can you just share a few words about working with the pigs or the oxen, just for listeners to get an idea of what type of work goes on at D Acres with animals?
Well, we definitely have a lot of respect for the animals and learning about the animals. I can't tell you the amount of time that I've spent just sort of either sneaking up on them or just sort of hanging out watching how the animals behave and like what their natural tendencies are, what they're prone to do, what they prefer, what they like, what they dislike, getting to know them as fellow creatures is super important to this. I mean, this observation and interaction is the fundamental layer that you can build upon with these relationships. With animals like the pigs, you recognize that they are ecological disruptors. I mean, these animals get in there and just root away and can change they can change the ecology. So when we come in and we're looking to develop a forest garden, an edible forest garden here, the first thing you look around is we have a very vibrant, healthy ecology called the northern forest that is just prevalent around here. It's 85% of the landscape in New Hampshire is northern forest, and it's strong, very strong, powerful trees that want to come right back if you cut them down. So the pig uses the role as an ecological disruption to our advantage. We'll come in and do some cutting and use all the resources that are available in woody biomass. We'll make mulch and firewood and timbers for building, and then the pigs are going to come in and do the fertilization, but also they're going to eliminate the possibility of the northern forest coming right back. So then we can sneak in there and plant our apple trees and pears and do that transformation. Because otherwise, when we first got up here, tried to go into the middle of the forest and plant a black walnut, nothing's going to happen. It needs full sun. So the way to get yourself fertility and full sun is to manage and work with the pigs. It is... we eat these animals as well. So there's no... it's not like I can really mince words and say how it's a relationship that there is not any oppression. We are ending the lives of these animals for our own purposes. But during that process, during that life, we're trying to share the beauty of the life as much as possible. Share the fresh water, share the open air, share the ability for them to do what their natural tendencies are. Allow them to get in the dirt, to allow them to bathe in the mud, to allow them to root and be piggy. So the idea is to have them live the life to their fullest, and when that day comes, we're looking to nourish ourselves, do it in the most respectful manner possible. That day and forward, because the meat off these animals, that flesh is a thing to be cherished and valued.
Mm-hmm. And in the book, you do write the purpose of raising animals is achieved through their life cycle and not their demise. The humane way that you're raising them differs so much from the conventional way that we're raising animals.
I think, too, what we're looking to do over time is develop a more vegetable-based diet. what the difficulty is right now is, in the northern forest, there's just but so much you can eat. There's just so much caloric value. It's not Hawaii. It's not a situation where we can just walk around four seasons and hunt and gather.
And drop seeds on the ground and they sprout into papaya trees. I lived in Hawaii for years and it was just amazing. Avocado pits fall on the ground and then you have a tree and the fruit was great. I mean, yeah, things grow there.
Grow. It's volcanic. I mean, there's everything. It's just totally different. So our adaptability here is to create a system that over time, we can get back to a vegetable-based diet. But like I said, I planted black walnut trees 15 years ago and just starting to get into nuts. So, some of these systems to get these chestnuts, to get the protein power, is going to take a long time. Even just to have the arable land for us to grow enough rice and beans. 15 years to get the fertility in there to really make a go at it. 25, 30. There's a triage period here that these animals are really helping us make the transition, but also nourishing us during this transition, and are incredibly valued for that purpose. I really can't say enough the amount of work that they provide for us, and anything we can do to ensure that they're well cared for during that period is our responsibility.
I'm sure that there's many people listening right now that are interested in either starting a community-scale permaculture farm or joining one. What advice would you give to those people listening that hear you and are very inspired?
Well, gosh, I just wouldn't get yourself tied into preconceived notions, particularly, this sort of how you think it may become. How would just keep your focus on the outcomes. I think if you get stuck too much in, a systematic step-by-step, this is how it's going to be, life's little instruction book, it's just not going to work out as well as if you have an open mind to all the possibilities and don't confine yourself to any of these preconceived notions. Don't think that this is how it has to be to meet your goals, but don't forget your goals. So for us, when we're getting started, looking at the opportunity and seeing, just this chunk of land and not really deciding on how we were going to get to be a public service organization, particularly in the beginning. And so there was a lot of room for discovery along that journey. And, some paths that obviously led in the wrong direction or meandered, but the journey was worth it. It was very, I think if you try to force this sort of thing, it's much like trying to force nature to do what you want. It's not true that we have that dominion. We must be responsive to what nature offers as opposed to dictating to nature.
And in the book, you write a lot, too, about making the grass greener where you are.
Yeah, I think that's important, especially in this day and age. I think we have so much potential, and so many times I feel like folks are not living in the moment. And so if we could get back to that, living in the moment and really feeling that connection to the place, it's an investment. Like that state of mind in itself is an investment, and it leads to the possibilities. Because if you're always thinking about the next pasture, you're not really enjoying the grass you're eating.
It's so true. And imagine yourself back what was it, almost 18 years ago. And you see yourself as young Josh Trought standing outside the Red Barn as it was. What advice would you give yourself? Similar advice to what you'd give to other people that we just talked about, or what would you tell him?
I'm not prone to patience, but it is something that I've grown to value more and more. Just a slow, methodical progression is a lot better than exhaustion and failure. So, seen a lot of organizations come and go over the time that we've been here. We've definitely faced lots of challenges up here, and I think it's just a matter of working through them methodically and putting your best foot forward every day. That's how I think the best way to get things done at this juncture. When I was younger, I wanted to get it all done by now. Like a 5-year plan or something.
5 year, more like 2 years.
No, this is a 40th century plan right now. So
Yeah, I loved what you wrote in your book about some book you'd love to see in the future, the 40th century permaculture farm or something. It was really cute. Do you remember that in the book?
I remember that in my head.
Yeah. It was just inspiring. I thought that's how we have to think. I remember learning permaculture like years and years ago too, and the observation principle. And I remember just thinking, for God's sake, who's going to sit and watch their land for a year? You've got to be kidding me. Because I just wanted to run out and start digging immediately.
Well, I mean, you have room for that too.
Yeah.
You can definitely, charge and get some onions in the ground. Get some things turned over. You just don't. You don't want to stretch your final vision in your first year. You want the final vision to accumulate when you're done.
Has the land, the site, your climate, I'm sure, has dictated the evolution of acres? You have to be very responsive to the land as well, right? What it wants.
Yeah, I think that's a crucial lesson from our experience, and a crucial lesson for anyone who really wants to get that connection going. I mean, I think that acres would be a completely different place on the other side of the hill with different people. And that's good. That's the way it should be. There shouldn't be a single model for any of this. It's going to be based on, your medicine cabinet, your people, your land base, your surrounding community, your existing cultural circumstance. All of this is going to play into the formulation of a community-scale operation, community-scale project. And it's going to be totally unique. It's going to be unique as the genetics of the people involved. And that should be understood and should be cultivated, should be nurtured. We're not going to make cookie cutters. There's not going to be a bunch of acres. I don't think anybody really reasonable is going to think that can happen. And I think we don't want that to happen. I think that's the beauty of it, to have this creative element, to have this unique, one-of-the-kind element to our existence. I think that's some of the beauty of being human. And so we don't ever want to marginalize that. We don't ever want to make it so there's one way to do permaculture or one way to do, living with one another's and communities and so forth. I take all the fun out of it.
Definitely. Well, Josh, is there anything? Well, one thing is, where can people find you online, and where can they find your book?
We have a website. It's www.dacres.org. And feel free to email us or give us a phone call. If you'd like to buy the book, we offer the book through mail order on our website, as well as the publisher, Chelsea Green. There's also possibility you can buy it from the giant bookseller on the internet.
Who will that bookseller will not be named? No.
Which is also a jungle in South America.
Yeah. Let me think here.
Okay.
And Josh, this has been great to talk with you. Is there anything else you want to add to tell our listeners that I didn't ask you?
There's a lot of urgency right now. Whereas, it's this business where we talk about observation and interaction. It's going to be a year before you should really build a house or whatnot. But you should start observing and interacting right now. Because we need to all wake up to this reality that time is short. Savor it. Do something with it. I think it's so rewarding to take that opportunity that we've been granted. And it's very fulfilling and rewarding on many levels. It's rewarding because it leaves you with confidence and, in place of sort of the anxiety and the nervousness of our existing culture. And it really leaves you quite fulfilled spiritually, I think, to have this realization that you've been granted this gift on this planet during this time, and you get to do something with it that's actually can be quite good. And we should all realize that as a species, that our incredible potential. And just savor it, enjoy it, and fulfill it.
Because we can have a positive role on the planet right now.
Oh, absolutely. Every single one of us in our communities, with one another, we just can't, we shouldn't take that for granted, and we should really, really remember it. We should act upon it. Yeah, we have the capacity. We have all the tools we will ever need. We just need to change our cultural perspective, put our will behind it. It's really a gift. It's quite a gift. And I think many of us are sort of still at this verge, at the edge of fully engaging with this reality, with this connection. Some of us have been 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And so if we can get that critical mass where there are enough places of this nature where it becomes commonplace, then people can really start visualizing and actualizing a rural revolution where we get people on the land and we have localized economies, and the power will be back in the hands of the people. And so
Here.
That's my life goal. Going for that for as long as I got it.
Well, it's great. Well, thank you for sharing it with us, with all of us, and thanks so much for being on the show today.
All right, Jill. Well, keep doing the good work.
Yeah, I know you too. Thank you so much.
Dude, thanks for doing this.
You've been listening to a Sustainable World Radio podcast. You can find us online at sustainableworldradio.com and also on iTunes. For more information about permaculture and ecology, visit the Sustainable World Media YouTube channel, where you'll find videos about permaculture, aquaponics, organic gardening, rainwater harvesting, and much, much more. Sustainable World Radio is a listener-supported program. If you like what we do, please consider making a donation to the show. I'm your host and producer, Jill Cloutier, and thank you so much for listening.